Good afternoon. I am Amanda Nguyen, and I am a digital learning specialist at the Maine Department of Education. And my colleague, Jean Zimmerman, is the physical education specialist here at the department as well. We had the opportunity this past year to work with Julia Francis from Alludo Learning to design what we came to call the DigCit4ME Challenge, which was a blended learning opportunity. And as part of that opportunity, educators reached out to us and said, how did you create this game? How did you make this DigCit4ME challenge? So we're hosting this webinar today with the hopes of offering people some insights into how you design a blended learning opportunity. And we're really going to use the DigCit4ME challenge as like a case study, if you will. So we will start at the department here by telling the DigCit4ME story from our perspective, but then Julia will dive in and talk about how Alludo Learning and that platform and the work she does with districts and with states really is grounded in gamified learning, evidence-based learning, choice-based learning, and digital badging. And the pedagogy that goes with each of those things. And then at the end, we will have time to answer some questions. And we know that some of you asked questions in the registration form ahead of time. We tried to incorporate slides in this presentation that address some of those, but know that at any point you're also welcome to enter your questions into the chat box, and we will try to answer them as we go, or we'll make sure that we answer them at the end. So the way this collaboration between the Maine Department of Education and Alludo happened was sort of by chance. I was at the State EdTech Directors Association conference last June, so almost a year ago, and Julia and her team were running a game essentially for us as state leaders throughout the conference, and it was fascinating to me. I've been a number of times before, and you often end up meeting similar states or from time to time, but the way the game was structured, it challenged us to connect with other states that maybe we hadn't before in like a scavenger hunt type of way, or it challenged us as we were in presentations or workshops to listen more closely so that we could submit evidence of our learning, or to do some reflecting that maybe we hadn't done before, because you go from thing to thing, but just the few seconds it takes to reflect and post that piece of evidence actually helps solidify what you just learned, and you can look back at it. So this group of people, I've known them for a few years, and I didn't think that we were a highly competitive group of people, but I guess we are, because I have to tell you, CETA keeps us busy from very early in the morning to sometimes rather late at night, and I found myself, they might have let us go at like 9 o'clock at night after something, and I would still be wanting to get all my points in, and to keep checking the leaderboard throughout the day, and it was just fascinating. I don't necessarily think of myself as a competitive person, but something about the way this platform was designed totally increased my engagement with the whole conference, and it made me a little bit competitive, which is interesting. And so anyway, throughout this, and as a prize, if you will, there were 2 states that won a pilot with Alludo, and Maine was one of them. So we had a chance to sit down with Julia before we decided what we were going to do with Alludo, but she was able to share ideas from other districts, and she'll talk a little bit later about a catalog that she has. But really, the people that she has worked with over the past are very generous in sharing their ideas, and the platform Alludo is on is very helpful in terms of you can actually go in and see the games other people have made, and you can borrow some of the stuff that they've made and put it into your game as well. And I have to say that very early on, we told Julia that we were not game designers by trade, and so I was a little bit nervous coming into this about how we could make this game, but Julia has some great templates and some great planning tools, and is just really there to help you think about how do you make something that is engaging and that makes sense for people. So we appreciated that from her, and we definitely couldn't have done it without her, but we were really happy with the end result. So just from the department perspective, where we started in terms of what were we going to do with this platform, we always try to respond to some need in the field, and we had two forms of data: the Maine Integrated Youth Health Survey and the Bright Bites Technology and Learning Survey that we looked at. And on the Maine Integrated Youth Health Survey, there were 30% of the students who responded who said that they had been bullied electronically before. And that number is higher for females than it is for males. So I think it's 40% of female students have been bullied electronically, and 20% of male students have been bullied electronically. And, that is a concerning number for us. And so we took a look at the Bright Bites survey data, the teacher one in particular, and we found that only 6% of teachers spend 5 or more hours a school year teaching about cyberbullying. And 49% of educators across the state don't teach about it at all. And so given the prevalence that we saw in the Maine Integrated Youth Health Survey, we felt like it was really important for us to do something around digital citizenship to help empower teachers to bring some of these resources and opportunities for learning to their students. So, this in many ways was an integration of health education, physical education, and technology learning. But it's also something that we wanted educators across the state to feel like, digital citizenship can fit in any context. And we wanted all sorts of educators to feel like they could participate and also feel like they could be part of how we help create environments where digital citizenship is really well integrated into the student learning experience. So this is just one of our many whiteboards where we were trying to figure out the connections between things, but we ended up landing on that we would create this DigCit4ME challenge, and our goal was really to support educators in schools as they integrated digital citizenship concepts into student learning opportunities. And while we can't endorse any particular curriculum here at the department, the Maine Learning Technology Initiative, MLTI, has for the past, 15, 16 years, often supported the Common Sense Media framework when educators are looking for ways to meet the digital citizenship requirement. And it really comes from, it's a free curriculum. There's lots of models online. And we had some folks in Maine who were able to share with districts ways that it could be integrated. And know that we definitely don't promote using it in its canned way, though I know that some districts do. We worked with educators to say, how do you adapt this to the students who are in front of you? We wanted people to really understand the connection to the health education and physical education standards as well. So when you have this slide deck, you're welcome to click on that link and you will see the intersection work there. Additionally, we wanted to make sure that educators had a chance to practice some of these digital citizenship skills and to apply those strategies in real life, as well as to then take those skills that they've learned and create relevant learning experiences for their students and others. And so given the nature of what we were trying to create for learning outcomes in terms of getting digital citizenship integrated into schools in a way that was really practice-based and had a chance and provided an opportunity for students to practice being a good digital citizen, we decided that a blended learning model would be great for that. So we ended up coming up with a number of key components. So each of these became a level in our game. So there were the pre-workshop activities, there were in-person workshop activities, and then there were post-workshop activities. And then the health and physical education teams also did a follow-up virtual event. So each of those levels was broken into different missions. So the pre-workshop one included 2 missions. One was called Get Ready and one was called Get Moving. In Get Ready, it really had an overview of the game. We were very much inspired by Carlsbad, New Mexico, who was kind enough to share their game in the catalog that we were looking at. And we so we had this introduction video, but then we also wanted to make sure that we sort of leveled the playing field for people and made sure everyone had a chance to gain some baseline skills. So that mission really was about, like, how do you upload a photo? How do you take a screenshot? How do you screen record? Those types of things. And, you know, people didn't have to do all of those activities. If they already knew how to do those things, that was fine. They didn't have to do that. But for folks who wanted to learn each of those activities, we built in a video that showed them how to do the thing, and then we made it sort of fun, you know, to say, like, okay, upload a photo of your favorite place in Maine. So we didn't really dive into the content at that point. We were just trying to get people to have the basic skills to be able to participate in the game. In the next mission, called Get Moving, that's where we started to see, where are people now with digital citizenship skills? We figured out a way to integrate a pre-workshop survey, and we also tried to give people space to talk about the successes in their districts and the challenges, because we figured that by the time we had them in person, you know, maybe given that digital citizenship is this great big thing, you know, maybe there are parts of it that one district does really well that somebody else is struggling with, and we could make those connections across districts that would be helpful. So it was good to have that information ahead of time going into those workshops. And then when we actually had the in-person workshops and the post-workshops, we made those missions very similar in terms of very similar to the Common Sense Media Framework and the Health Education and Physical Education Standards in terms of content, but we also tried to zero in on what we heard in the survey or in the pre-workshop evidence of learning that people were really excited to learn or felt was the need in their school or district. So, for example, Keep Safe was about internet safety, you know, data privacy, avoiding like risky online relationships, that type of thing. Validate was around credibility of sources and, you know, think first. That's where we really zeroed in on the cyberbullying piece. See Me was around creating a digital identity online. And Let's Chat was around communication. So one of the things that we learned from Julia was that a way to increase engagement is to have a theme and a brand and some badges that are really relevant to your learners. So we are in Maine, and you know, the state bird is the chickadee, right? So that was our Get Moving badge, and the, you know, we've got the pine cone as well. It's Get Ready. But then we knew that we were going to do 5 in-person workshops, and we were going to do them all across the state. We'll show you a map in a second, but we knew that each of those communities that we were going to be in had certain things that they were known for. So, for example, the workshop that we had on the coast, you know, they have lighthouses there, and lighthouses are designed to keep boats safe. So we called that mission, which, you know, had internet safety and whatever in it, Keep Safe. So we tried to make them relevant, and you know, what we got from this pre-workshop experience was we got to know the participants ahead of time. Everything from where their favorite place was in Maine, if you look at some of the photos they uploaded, to this idea of like, what are the successes and challenges in your schools already? And that helped us plan the workshops to be more relevant to those learners, those adult learners who were there. We also felt like everyone started with a similar skill set, right? Like there were some technology skills there, but there were also some digital citizenship pieces as well. So it is nice when, you know, people come in with a set of skills that they share in common. I think, you know, one of the things we really noticed at that first workshop was people came in and they were already excited. They were already talking about things. They had sort of been competing against each other. And, you know, that for us was great. You know, one of the things that was wonderful about this experience was we truly did get to reach educators across Maine. So they joined from pre-K classrooms all the way through higher ed. They were from multiple regions in the state. These were the places where we hosted the workshops, if you take a look at the map. And we did end up reaching people in all different roles. So everyone from guidance counselors and school nurses to superintendents, curriculum coordinators, to classroom teachers, So it was really this fantastic opportunity for us to have lots of people who have lots of different roles in schools say, you know what, learning digital citizenship concepts is important. And one of the things that people really took from this was, you know, a lot of schools do just a little bit of this, and they want to do more, and they're not alone in wanting to do more, and that's okay. And they've now met a whole bunch of people who can be support for them, and they've been connected to a bunch of resources. Another thing that really stuck with these folks is that part of this was, how do you help students see that digital citizenship is a set of do's instead of a set of don'ts, right? So you're not trying to create all sorts of rules and hoping that that improves the digital citizenship environment at your school. You're really trying to help kids make better decisions in the moment that help them become good digital citizens. So one of the things that we tried to model for folks was the use of social media, because in the pre-workshop surveys that we looked through, folks identified that they know that Twitter exists or Facebook exists or whatever, but they don't really use it. So this picture, a fun story, is I was actually up on a stage, and I had connected my phone to the projector, and I said, okay, we're going to live tweet right now. So I was in my Twitter account, and I took a picture of these folks and included it in the tweet, and I said, okay, we're going to thank Alludo Learning for helping us build this game. So I did the, at Alludo Learning. And then we also introduced them to this hashtag, DigCit4ME, and we showed them how that works, and, explained that it was sort of like a tagging way. So if you wanted to go back and see lots of things related to that concept, you could do that. And so we did that not necessarily because we were advocating that all educators use Twitter, but we were trying to model for them that if you as an educator haven't had that experience in the online space, it's harder for you to then model it for students. So we tried to encourage them to participate in some social media platform in some way, just so that they had the experience. So this particular educator, she did participate on social media, and she shared at one point her DigCit commit, and then she also shared her sketch notes from the end of the day, which was nice. And one of the things that we tried to say to them was that social media is a great way to connect with people who couldn't be at an event in person, and to also stay connected, right? So if you look for that hashtag, generally people who are doing that have shared interests, or they're looking for resources about similar things, or it's a way to bring in people who couldn't be there in person, and a way to stay connected even after the time. So we were happy that the pre-workshop materials set us up for a good day, and then we did. We for each of those missions, the keep safe, the validate, we had in-person activities that were happening, and you can look at the agenda and resources. We'll send the slides out. You can click there, but they were practicing different skills, critical thinking, talking with each other, considering other people's perspectives, collaborating. And the big one for us was this idea of practicing decision-making skills. So some people were really, if you look at some of these pictures, they were very, very focused on what was happening with the activity in the room. There are others who you will see they've got devices in their hand. So the way the Alludo game was designed, in this case, if you wanted to be an educator who was like doing challenges as you, or doing activities as you were engaged in the in-person activities at the same time, you were welcome to do that. If that helped you feel more engaged or helped you reflect on what you were learning, like that was why we designed that to happen. There are some people who are like, I might go back to it later, and they just really wanted to focus on the in-person. That's totally fine too. It was an option, and I think for the people who did the online piece with it, they loved it. For the other people, they were like, you know what, I liked going back and looking at what was posted there and engaging on my own time. So know that, similar to the way you make decisions about back channels or whatever, it should be an option for people. You should meet people where they're at. And you can have great success either way. One of the things that has been really important to us as we plan workshops is this idea of giving people time to plan what they're going to do with what they just learned. So this educator says, the sign of great professional learning experience is the gift of time to identify goals, needs, action steps for the return to school. And he posted his plan, which, I don't know if that makes it more likely to happen if you share it on social media, but he definitely was willing to share his plan. And then all educators had their plans out on the tables, and then they were given the opportunity to give each other feedback or to say, I'm from this district and I'd love to collaborate with you. So making connections to each other. But one of the things that was neat, if you follow the DigCit4ME piece, is to see that some of these educators actually did implement their plans. So this was a few months later, but this educator did, a spin-off of one of the activities we had done in person. And for us at the department, we work with educators all the time, and we want to make sure that the capacity we build for them actually leads to some sort of difference in the student experience. So it was great to see. There's a number of these examples if you look up the DigCit4ME hashtag, but we were happy to see that happen. And then in terms of the feedback on the day and the use of the platform overall, we got lots of positive feedback. My favorite was this one, the best professional development ever. I've been in education 29 years. People just sort of said to us, this was a spinoff. This was new. This was different. And so, you can see this was fun and motivating for me, and I assume students would have the same reaction. The skills that we were working on there, she believed that students would also like to do them. This was similar to me, right? Like with my CETA experience, the competition aspect drew me in, which surprised me. It does. I think when these are designed well and designed for high engagement, it does bring out a little bit of the competitive side in people. We also got a number of emails from schools and districts who had a person or two in attendance, and they wanted to take the game and have all their students do it. Or they wanted to take the game and have all their colleagues do it. But Jean and Susan and I couldn't really agree to that because we would have had to approve all of the evidence of learning, which the approval process is fantastic, right? In that you get to truly see what students, or in our case, what educators have for evidence of learning and what their questions might be, or where they could have gone deeper, or maybe some of them truly do surprise you and you're like, wow, look at that. We couldn't do that for all of the educators and students in Maine, so we had to say no. But it's a good thing and a bad thing, right? Like, we're really happy that they enjoyed the game so much, but for us, we wish that we had thought about scale a little bit differently. So great feedback for us, and a great way to sort of help us think about, how could we have done this differently? So know that the third level was around this post-workshop idea. This is just one example. Some of the educators made a DigCit commit for each of the missions. So this was the Keep Safe, the one with the lighthouse, and this particular educator said that he wanted to connect with people across the district and share resources. And that was in January, and he had evidence of that learning. But then I was just looking on Twitter. He did this again in April and then again in May. And so for us, we were really excited to see that, the evidence they uploaded and the commitments they made in the game, there is that sustained engagement. They're still carrying it forward, even though we're months later now, that's exciting to us. So one of the other things that the platform offered that was helpful to our thinking, at least, was this idea of, it tracked how long people engaged in these activities. So it's not that it took people 20 hours to do the survey, but collectively, all of the people who participated, the survey was a required thing. So, when you add up all of their time together, it was quite a bit. And so Julia was also able to help make a map. I don't know if you remember a few slides ago, we talked about where we were going to have in-person workshops. We actually did have participants in all of the places. Know that for those of you who are from out of state, This is mostly just trees here in the middle of the state. So the population really was along the coast and up this corridor here. But it was nice for us to look and see, like, what did people do? The 756 completed activities, that's huge. And we truly did enjoy looking through all that evidence of learning, but it does make us think that maybe something that we could have done differently was, instead of having like a 3-month time frame, maybe we should have done a 6-month one, and maybe we could have done one cohort that was teacher leaders first and had them have this experience, and then they could have served as approvers of evidence in a way that would have meant that we could have let the game be used more widely. But you know, you live and you learn. One thing that is exciting is that I don't think the game gets deleted. I think it'll end up in the catalog so other people can use it as well. And we are happy to do that, because we also borrowed from other people's catalogs from around the country, which was, I think that's just a nice way to help make the task of designing a game feel more exciting and less daunting, to know that there are things that you can use from other places and that you can really learn from. So, you know, a few weeks ago, we did have to end the challenge, and we named some winners, which was awesome. Just a little note, there were some people with high scores, but if they weren't part of a district that we had permission to print their names for, we didn't include them here. But the only reason I share these at this point is to say that we had people come from small districts to the workshops and to play the game, but so they often could only have 1 or 2 people come, whereas some of the other districts might have been able to send a team of folks. And the way the platform was designed, you know, it valued the successes of individuals, and it also valued the successes of people who worked in teams together. And just, if you look across the slide, we had a nice diversity of winners, if you will, or people who we wanted to celebrate their achievements throughout this. So, you know, in addition to having, you know, they've got the like sticker badges that they can put on their map, and or they could put those badges into their digital backpack. We also wanted to say, you know, thank you for participating, and thank you for bringing this back to your school, and making some commitment to help integrate digital citizenship across the board, because we really, you know, remember this started with data that said students want us to address some of these things. And so we were happy to find a fun and engaging way to tackle this, and we hope that other people were also happy to have participated. We got lots of good feedback, and so part of this is people wanted to understand where that positive feedback came from. And so with that, Julia is happy to jump in and share some of how this all works and the background behind the platform, and to also tell you how, if you wanted this for your district, how you could make that happen.
Before I go back to the slides, I just want to take a minute and, you know, one, thank you both for all the work and your team did in bringing together the DigCit4ME. A lot of people engage with Alludo for online year-round professional development for their teachers and staff and what have you. But we met with Amanda at the CETA conference a little over a year ago. Has it even been a year yet? And by the way, she's really competitive. She tells you any different. She won the prize. That was the prize, was a pilot with us. And she brought the idea of this blended learning experience, which some of our districts do. But I think considering you hadn't ever worked with the platform before, and the program that you put together and the time that you did, great job. I mean, it was just, it's really, really nice. So I'm glad that we can share this with other folks. I'm going to share my screen now. I'm going to talk just a little bit about Alludo, and then I'm just going to get in and show you. I think it's so much easier to see it than to have me talk about it. Can you see the slides? Are those showing up okay, Amanda? Okay, I'm going to go into present mode, hopefully. There we go. So a little bit about Alludo. We have, our product has been implemented, integrated across the country and actually worldwide, and that we have some international players with a couple coaching and training organizations that support teachers for foreign language. We have roughly about 80 districts we're working with now. That's growing daily as soon as those especially as we move into the budget year planning for next year. We have a pretty solid footprint on the West Coast because we started in California with Palm Springs Unified School District 3 years ago. They had this idea of, we need to scale our professional development. We have 12 to 1,500 teachers, and we're going one-to-one. And they needed to get training on Chromebooks and devices for their teachers very quickly. And so they have an amazing creative team that we worked with. We co-developed it. And then other districts came to us and said, well, we actually have these needs as well. Could you help us? And that's how it went from what was an independent application called Chrome Warrior to what it is today now, the Alludo platform. As you can see in what Amanda and her team shared with DigCit4ME, you can use the platform for a variety of different ways. Games for teachers, administrators, we're now working with students as well. You can create whatever type of a learning experience you want. I call it content agnostic. And so year-round PD is one way. New teacher training is something that's definitely gaining some traction as well. We were primarily focused a lot on tech and ed tech, and now that's shifting significantly to also curriculum, STEM-based, project-based learning, social emotional learning, PBIS, you name it. I mean, if you need training for that in your district, you're going to see that potentially available in Alludo in our catalog, or it's content that you can create on your own. So as far as the challenges that we were trying to solve, as we were scaling and talking with more districts, these are the topics that came up time and time again, as far as, why would you need to do professional development different? Why would personalized training need to be approached in a different way? So scaling, we've already talked about with Palm Springs. There's also this idea of, how do you keep your content current and relevant? Every time a tool changes, you have to update your training. And so as tools become obsolete, as approaches expand, what's a way that I can quickly, easily keep my content fresh and that the quality of the training relevant? Next thing we were looking at is just overall, how do we reduce costs? We have a lot of districts losing budgets. Substitutes can be expensive, also can be disruptive in terms of taking teacher out of the classroom. So online is definitely a way that districts are going to manage that. Next thing we were looking at was evidence of application. So Amanda's example with Maine DigCit4ME was perfect because you had some pre-workshop activities, then you had the activities themselves during the workshop, but then there was that post-application. So now that I've learned this with digital citizenship, what am I bringing to my classroom? What am I applying? So Alludo allows you to do that with the submitting of evidence. Last, and what I really feel is most important, is how are we empowering our teachers just to own their own professional development? So that's where choice becomes very important. Rather than telling someone, go to this workshop, learn this, instead, give them choice. And that's what we're truly focused on. Any questions at this point? Okay. Couple features I'll just mention, and then I'm going to go into how this works. I've already talked about blended and online. You can create as many games as you want for any type of a learner. What's really different about Alludo is you can personalize the platform for your program. So you saw how Maine did this DigCit4ME. They had cool badges. They had a background of the beach on the coast. I'll show you some examples of other districts' themes, but the idea is you create a theme and a brand that resonates with your teachers, with your learners. So when they go in, they get excited about it. It improves engagement. Another thing that the platform allows you to do is issue digital badges. So some of you may be familiar with the term open and digital badges. Through Alludo, you can issue badges digitally to your audience, to your players. They can take those digital badges outside of Alludo and keep them in a storage container like Badger, Mozilla Backpack, Credly, that type of thing. And of course, we have a catalog. We have a catalog of a whole bunch of different items, from digital citizenship to curriculum, pedagogy, ed tech, so on and so forth. So why recreate the wheel in terms of building content on your own? Instead, draw from what other educators have built, leverage that, and modify it as you see fit for yourself. So this is the leaderboard. Um, this is where the competition comes into play. And as soon as we go through this in the player board, I'll go into a live version of this. But basically what you want to do is you want to create an experience where you can have a little bit of competition, hopefully friendly competition, highlight maybe top schools or districts and how they're competing, maybe highlight top players, as well as we have this activity feed where all of the activities for all of the players will show up, and you can integrate that with Twitter. So you have this idea of social media recognition, as well as look at what the investment maybe the school or the district is doing for their teachers. Next thing is the player dashboard. So when players log in to play, they have this ability of going in and being able to move across and throughout a game. This is a snapshot of the DigCit4ME game, where you see up here where you see pre-workshop activities and workshop in blue, that was the level. So what Amanda and her team created was a level where within the level there were missions, a get ready mission and a get moving mission. And under those missions within them were all of the activities. So notice here, they're saying you need to have 50 points in get moving, but there's choice here beyond this first one that's required. Within get ready, there were also multiple activities, but the player only needed to do one. In a traditional professional development game, maybe you would see G Suite for EDU as a mission. Underneath it, you might have 12 activities, maybe a couple related to each app. But instead of doing all of the activities in that G Suite mission, you would ask them to do maybe 150 or 200 points. That's again where that choice comes in. I'm going to move now. Let me see if I can get this to switch over. I'm going to switch over to the live version of Alludo. Oh, of course, I'm in the wrong instance. I've got to sign out and back in. Just a moment. But while I'm there, here's something to note when it comes to signing into Alludo. Rather than your teachers having to memorize a new account, password, username, and all that, you can authenticate in through your school or your district email account. And in my case, I have a Google district, so I'm going to use Gmail, but you can log in through Office 365. It's really nice for the teachers. It makes it really easy for them to log in. It'll take me just a minute to switch over to the main game. That's because I'm a super admin, so I kind of see everybody's games. Here we go. All right, so personalization. So you can see here in the background, we have the nice coast of Maine. We have the badges that Tim has earned. He's earned his pre-workshop level badge, and then any special badges that he has earned will show up here. Now, digital badging we talked about a little bit. As you're earning digital badges, you can see here in the platform, you have this download feature. As you earn the badges, you can go here and download them. So back to what we were talking about a minute ago, here's my level. Within my level, I have my missions. Within my missions, I have my activities. So I'll go to one that Tim already did, Digital Citizenship Learning Goals. I'm going to click on the title, and basically each player will have a title with a challenge, in this case an activity goal, and underneath that is the evidence of learning. As I mentioned earlier, different than a traditional LMS where you would answer questions yes or no or multiple choice, Alludo allows you to have the learners provide evidence. And so in this case, it's just a typed response to the 3 issues, questions, or discussion topics addressed during the workshop. You can get very creative here with a whole bunch of different ways of submitting evidence. So maybe it's a lesson plan. You could have them submit a link to a PDF or a Google Doc. Maybe they do something interactively with their students, and you could have something screencasted, linked to a screencast. Pretty much any and all opportunity there for evidence. When it comes to building out your curriculum, you could very easily go in here into this building area where the activity is, and you can include videos for instruction. You could do just easy screencasts, a screenshot with images. whatever you want to build for your learning content as you're building your game is wide open. I am going to go here into the catalog now. We've talked about the catalog and how you can pull content and bring it into your game as you're building. So I'm going to show you briefly what our catalog looks like. So when you're licensed with Alludo, you have access to our community catalog. Again, rather than building from scratch, you can go into any of the districts that we're working with and you can pull from content they've built. That said, if you are a district that is licensed with us and you do not want your content to be shared, you don't have to share it. You can make it private with one click. It's super easy to do. In addition to our districts creating games, we also write and create games on behalf of some of our districts. So, example with digital citizenship, we went in and built a digital citizenship game for our other districts to draw from, again, rather than recreate the wheel. So I can go in to any of these games. In this case, I'm showing you digital citizenship. I'll make this just a little bit bigger for the audience, make sure you guys can see it. And in this game, I have 2 levels. The first one is around exploring digital citizenship. I get to learn about it as an educator. I get to understand more about privacy and security, literacy, communication. Within each mission, I have a whole bunch of different activities. Maybe I want to get an intro to common sense media. We have some common sense media as well. And I can look at any of these activities, like this one, Creative Commons and Copyrights. I can review it. And if I like this activity, I like the video and everything else I see, I can just easily click the copy button and I can bring it into my, my game instance. In addition to copying activities, I can copy an entire mission, or I can go in and copy an entire game. So in this case, it's asking me, I'll bring it into my DigCit4ME game, and I can bring it into the level here, so on and so forth. In addition to copying entire games, you can, from our catalog, you can also search on topics. So Alludo allows you easily to do a search. Maybe I could do something on cyberbullying, and you can search on topics. So it allows you to easily go in either to a full built-out game and draw from it, or search across all the districts. And here's the cyberbullying topic that was built in Maine's game. So that's just a kind of a preview of the catalog. I'm going to switch back now to my slides. In working with districts across the country, oh, I clicked the wrong button. We recognize there's a few success factors in how do you build a good program. So first is the game design. Amanda and her team have talked a lot about that, right? How do I build something that's engaging, short, small, bite-sized, incremental activities? In Alludo, you can do any type of content you want. Again, tech mission and pathway-based, curriculum-based, initiative-based. You pick what is aligned with your district and you build that so that it's valuable to your teachers. The next thing was, well, how do I get people into this program? So it's great that I've spent all this time and energy building it, but how do I get them in? And then more importantly, how do I get them to stay in the game? And so under design and pedagogy, we had a lot of tools and templates that we can use to support you, to help you build it. You want to, again, make sure that the architecture of the game reinforces the goals of the teacher in the play. And then, of course, drawing from our catalog and assigning those digital badges is really what the game build-out looks like. Now, one thing I'll mention that is new literally in the past 2 weeks for Alludo, what you see in the main game and some of our traditional games is this idea of progressing from level to level. So I do everything in level 1, then I progress to level 2. I have to do everything in level 2 before I unlock level 3. That is a way that we started. We've revamped it now. So instead of just, instead of being held back in a level, you can have an open game. This is really, really good when you're trying to meet the of varying skill levels. So maybe the basics are level 1, intermediate's level 2, and advanced is level 3. If I'm a player, I can go in an open game, I can do any mission pathway that I want. So maybe I'm in Google mission level 1, while I'm in digital citizenship level 3, while I'm in PBIS level 2. So our new architecture will allow you to build out that much of an open experience. The next thing is getting people into the game. So when we were working with district at the very beginning, we were finding out that people were like, yeah, I'm excited about it at first, but I don't know. And so we built out a service package called our district adoption program, because what we started to learn over time was if you're branding and theming it with something that's interesting and valuable, and you're providing an incentive strategy, and you're really releasing it and promoting it like you would any big event or initiative, you're going to get a lot more engagement, a lot more excitement. So we built out this service package. You don't have to do the services with us, but it's something that we do. If you have the creativity, like Amanda and her team do it in-house and do it yourselves, fantastic. But the idea is you start first with your brand. In this case, you see a lot of different games. These are all across the country. Here's I forwarded it. Here's the Cavern Crusades in Carlsbad. They have the Carlsbad Caverns. Valley of the Lost Gems in Murrieta. They have the Murrieta Valley, and they're known for that. Palm Springs Odyssey was this great little adventure through the desert. So again, creating something that resonates with your audience. Once you get your brand and theme, then you want to develop your badges. The badges are fun. They show recognition of achievement of where you might be in a game. And again, they can be digital. So you can tie those to micro-credentials, pretty much do anything and everything you want with badges. The next part was the promotional material. So, okay, how are people going to hear about this? Well, we help develop content so that they can learn about it. One would be a website. So you drive everybody to a website that shows them, how do I log in? How do I get started? What are these badges? What do they mean? And what am I going to learn as an educator? How will this benefit me? In addition to that, from the website and all of the design come launch posters, postcards, again, the badges, and then through that social media. So we definitely recommend you get a Twitter account for your program. You have a hashtag like DigCit4ME was really fun. And you bring people into the community through social media and through collaboration in the game. Now, once it's promoted, that's wonderful. It's like Pokemon Go. You've got like a bunch of people in there playing, but how do you keep them engaged? So we have these engagement strategies that we share with you, that we build into the program. One of them is incentives. In a minute, I'll talk about our Alludo store. If you have that advantage where you can build in different incentives for your teachers, stipends, swag like lanyards and t-shirts, maybe it's technology, maybe it's items that you can purchase for your classroom. Whatever that strategy is that works with your budget, we help you develop that, and then we help you communicate it out. One thing that's really effective and is going to keep your program running is get your leadership on board. How do I get my leadership within my district on board? So we help you work with those strategies. I've talked a little bit about the catalog. I just wanted to share and highlight quickly when it comes to missions, you create whatever pathways are relevant, again, to your program. It could be PD, could be student learning, again, could be teachers and admins. So here's examples of different mission content that we have: tools, SAMR, PBL, digital citizenship. Those missions, of course, you want to have them continue in the levels that you build out. So maybe, again, introductory to the game in level 1, basics would be in level 2, so on and so forth. And as learners start at the beginning and move up levels, they're going to increase not only their skill mastery in these tools and approaches, but more importantly, the application in the classroom. So as you go from level 1 and 2, kind of learning about it, levels 3, 4, and beyond in a typical PD game for teachers would be, okay, now I'm doing all of this in the classroom with my students. The storefront. So what was happening with incentives with our districts, they were creating some really fun ideas around it, but then trying to manage how people were leveling up in Alludo versus how they were distributing the items just became a nightmare to manage. So we integrated an e-commerce storefront into Alludo. where you can create a store presence. People can go in. I call it the Chuck E. Cheese or the Dave & Buster's model, where players can go in and they can say, oh, I earned 500 points. Maybe I want this Bluetooth wireless device. No, I have 1,000 points. Maybe now I want a green screen kit. Or maybe they like the low point prizes, like a dry erase marker kit, a DigCit, or a Ditch That Textbook book. You can create whatever storefront experience that you want. Some people can't do items, some districts, so instead of that, they do buyback hours, continuing ed credits, again, stipends, whatever you want. But within the store, you can manage everything. You can see what players are ordering. You can fulfill that. Amanda's mentioned that whole, how do I manage and scale this across thousands of teachers if I'm approving all these activities and I'm distributing? Well, between a distribution function feature in Alludo, you can distribute the approving to various people at different sites. And in the Alludo store, you can see how other people are distributing it and manage it. It's all in one place at the same time. The catalog I've already shown you, but just want to share that it really is some amazing content in there that we have people bringing in. One district we work with, they have a gal that's a TOSA there now, and she is from the AVID organization. She came in and she wrote 3 missions on AVID. So she's got maybe 30, 35 AVID activities, and that's what she's done, for a living. She worked for that organization. So it's great content, and we love that so many people are willing to share that with other educators. It's been very valuable to folks. So final, to wrap it up, one of the questions that people always ask, well, how much does this cost? How expensive is it? I'm showing you here, this is pricing for both an adult learner, like teachers, staff, admin, versus students. We do have districts that are rolling out Alludo for students. Examples would be digital citizenship, STEM, STEAM, project-based learning, graduation requirements, career pathways. So it does work with students, but our primary focus on our catalog content is a lot around professional development. So just disclaimer on that. So the way it works for adult learners, it's $20 per person per year, and it's renewable annually. And if you have more than 250, 500 users, 1,000 plus, you can get volume discounts. So those go from 20 down to 18, 18 to 16, and our largest discount is $12. So if you're a larger district with 1,000 teachers or more, it's only $12 per person for the year, not the month. A lot of people have monthly subscriptions. This is per year. The district adoption services, where we develop your badges, your the postcards, the launch material, that first year of support, is $4,000, and it's a one-time fee. On the student side, the players' pricing starts at $5 for standard, but it discounts down to $4 or $3, again, depending on how many students. One thing to note is if you do student enrollment versus adult teacher only, the student enrollment does include the teacher licenses. So that's one packaged price for that. We do have optional services if you don't want to build your game, like the Maine team did. We build those for customers. We have outsourcing of player approving. I don't recommend it just because that's where you get that interaction and the back and forth with your teachers and the people that you're coaching, but we do that for some districts that really want to fully outsource an online PD program. With that, we're at wrap up. We've got a few minutes. I can go a couple minutes later if people have questions. Or Amanda, would you like to add anything?
I prefer that people ask questions if they have them. Brittany or Patsy? Is that Sophia?
Yeah, she's the one from California.
So do folks have questions? Feel free to either unmute yourself or you can type in the chat box. No?
No.
Okay. Well, I think at the end of the slides, and we will send those out, Julia's contact info is there, as is mine, if you have questions. Oh, here's a question from Pat.
Set up a game and maintain. So if you're asking, Patsy, for traditional, for professional development, I would say, so if you work with us on the badging and the promotional piece, that's usually about 4 to 6 weeks for us to help you with your brand, your badges, and the content, all of the marketing content. And in parallel to that, you would be building your game. Again, we give you templates and everything that you need. And we've seen games developed as quick as about 4 to 6 weeks. We have some that take a little bit longer, and reason being is some people will release a couple levels, and then they'll wait and have the players go in and play a little bit and get feedback from them before they build additional levels. So you can launch a program with 1 or 2 levels. You don't have to have the whole game built out. In terms of maintaining, if you have about 100, the ratio we've seen is if you have about 150 to 200 people playing, you can manage that by going in once a day, about 20 minutes a day, and reviewing activities if you keep up with it daily. If you want to do it more like weekly, takes about a couple hours a week. At the beginning, when you first launch, like when Amanda and team first published out, we're doing this, you're going to get a lot of activity. And so for that first week or two, it's kind of like, whoa, there's all these people playing, but it does taper off and becomes manageable, about 1 approver to every 150, 200 players. Did that answer your question? Hopefully. Okay, any other questions? I think you're muted, Amanda.
She added, do you see any fading of motivation and engagement after time?
Yes, we absolutely do. I mean, just like any program. And so those district adoption services that I mentioned include a full year, your first year, of a program to follow to keep engagement up. And so we do quarterly challenges. We have school competitions. Our company, we do a year-wide a year annual district and school-wide March Madness. So in the month of March, every school that's licensed with Alludo can compete with every school across the country. And we do this countdown in March Madness, just like the basketball season. And the top school gets this huge mega trophy that lights up, and they get a catered lunch on us for the school, the whole school, the teachers. And so it is teachers, by the way, it's not students, although maybe we'll do that in the future. And it's that type of thing that you have to keep up with the program. Annual fee per person if someone drops out. Yes, you can replace that person. Well, you can technically do it within the year, but the idea is if you license, say, for 500 people because you've got 700 people in your district, great. Let's license you with 500. Let's get the engagement up. Average engagement is usually anywhere between 60 and 80% within a district. But if people leave the district, absolutely. But usually if somebody comes in and they're playing for part of the year, they're licensed for that year. But next year you're renewing, you're going to have some teachers leaving, new teachers coming on board. You can swap it out at renewal time. Any other questions?
We're good. So
okay.
We'll make sure we send an email with the slides, and I will either re-record or I don't know. We'll figure that out.
We'll figure it out.
And add to this. But
thank you very much.
Thank you all for joining us.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.